In a world full of distractions, it can be super hard to get things done. Sometimes we'll even make a list of things to do for the day. But for some reason, when it's actually time to do those things, it just doesn't get done. This is something I've struggled with for literally years. I've always been super ambitious about getting things done. I always wrote lists. I always kept track of what I had to do in the days and in the weeks. But even with all that ambition and all that energy just to plan things out and to write to-do lists and all of that stuff, it still felt like I couldn't get anything done. But recently I found some things that have helped me actually get things done rather than just talking and writing about them. And I'll start with the most important thing that you need to do if you want to get to the point where you can look at your list and get it all done consistently. This is something that is a non-negotiable. If you really want to achieve your goals this year, this is something that you just have to do. And that thing is cutting out all distractions. The number one reason you can't stick to your to-do list is simply because of distractions. There's obviously other reasons that I'm going to talk about later in this video, but I wanted to start the video off with the most important thing that you need to do before you go to the rest of the tip. Distractions could mean many things to you, but for most people, a common distraction is the phone. If you want to achieve your goals this year, it starts with getting rid of the distractions. If you don't do anything about this, you will 100% fall into that same loop over and over again. You'll hit that burst of motivation, write down all the things that you want to get done, but then when it actually comes time to get those things done, it just doesn't happen. So what's the best way to approach this? There are companies out there that their main goal is to get our attention. Our attention is the most valuable asset in today's world. Because of this, it's super hard to get rid of distractions and to find a way to avoid them. Most of us can't just get rid of our phones. That's unrealistic. With that though, there are some things that we can do to help minimize distractions without just purely relying on willpower and discipline. First, delete all the apps on your phone that are giving you no value, especially the ones that are constantly distracting you. You know what those apps are for you. For me, this was TikTok and Instagram. I always used the excuse that I was learning on those platforms. I was watching valuable content, and for some of the time I was. There's always gonna be those good parts of the app. However, when I really looked into it, and looked at the time I was spending on it, the majority of the time was being wasted. For every 10 videos you watch, you might find one good one. And that is a lot of wasted time that we just don't need. So I'm not saying to delete those two specific apps. Whatever it is for you that's distracting you, this really could be anything. If you're spending time on this app daily and you're not getting any value from it, please delete it. Secondly, turn off notifications. Notifications are the easiest way to pull you out of being productive, out of a flow state, out of getting that to-do list done, back into distractions. If you go to your notification center right now, you will most likely see a bunch of garbage, a bunch of stuff that you don't need. And even if it's not an app that you use, when you get that notification, it's still pulling you back to the phone, back to those other apps that you know you should stay off of. So please, if you don't need notifications for an app, just turn them off. It's really one of the simplest things you can do, and in the long run will save you a lot of time. The last thing I'll say about phones is whatever you do, don't go on them in the morning. This is something I talked about in my previous video about morning routines, and it's something that will really change the outlook of your day. If the first thing you do in the morning is consume, you're setting yourself up for a day full of consumption. You'll start to lose the ability to think clearly for yourself, to develop original ideas. You'll instead just get flooded with thoughts of other people and ideas of other people that really aren't yours, and this truly has such a huge effect on everyone's life. If you want to hear more about how this affects your day, I highly recommend checking out that video. It's something I'm truly passionate about and something I wish the whole world could hear. Even if it's just 15 minutes in the morning to yourself, everyone needs a little bit of time before they jump into the phone and everything else that's happening in life. All right, to sum it up with the phones, delete all the apps that you don't need, turn off as many notifications as you can, and do not go on the phone in the morning. Again, this is pretty much step one, and without doing this, all the other parts of this video and all the other things that you try to do are just gonna be much harder. All right, what's next? Let's say you're at the point where you've gotten rid of all distractions, but you're looking for a way to make it even more likely that you get all of the stuff on your list done. The first thing is you have to stop overscheduling. One of the biggest mistakes when it comes to being productive is packing our schedule to the brim. It feels great in the moment when you're writing it all down, you know, you're ready to tackle all these things the next day. But when you actually get to that moment, it's just unrealistic and it can end up hurting you even worse. Sometimes when we have a giant list of things to do, we end up doing less than if we had a smaller list because we just don't know where to start. But not only that, it's just not sustainable. Life happens, things come up. When you're behind on your list, it might feel like you're failing, when in reality, this is the exact opposite of what we want. So the key is to focus on only the most important tasks, the ones that will actually move the needle in the right direction. Write down just 1 to 3 things that will make the biggest difference. Ask yourself, if I could only accomplish one thing today, what would that thing be? Now, when I say focus on the main task, that doesn't just mean ignoring all the other little things. Those smaller, less important tasks still need to get done eventually. This brings me to another point, which is keeping a separate list for all of those little things. Whenever something pops up, write it down on that one. Keep your daily list for the main important tasks only. Trust me, the feeling of checking off 3 main tasks for the day is a much better feeling than looking at a half-finished list at the end of the day, or one that you didn't even start. So again, don't pack your schedule to the point of burnout. Focus on 1 to 3 main tasks. Even if it's one big task, that's way better than having a giant list of things that you just aren't gonna get to. There's a difference between being busy and being productive. Writing down 20 things to do for the day is being busy, and it's not a productive way to get things done. Being productive means being smart about how you do it, taking rest when you need it, and focusing on the things that will actually move you in the right direction. Finally, there's one more thing that can really help you get that list done, and that is time blocking. It's one of the most effective ways to stay organized and make real progress towards your goals. It also gets rid of a feeling of just being overwhelmed when you look down at your list, not knowing when to do them. You're not just blocking out time for tasks, you're creating a commitment for yourself to show up to. And when the time comes, all you have to do is follow that schedule. But again, to go back to that last point, you can't overschedule yourself. It's super important to leave time in between blocks for life to happen, for unexpected things, and just for breaks. I know in a lot of other content that's not what you'll hear, but the truth is if we don't have those breaks and if we don't have time to rest and recover, we're not gonna be as effective in the times that we're actually working towards our goals. So please, please, please don't just go task after task after task after task. These things take energy and it takes effort and it takes focus. And like I said before, with too many tasks, you're just gonna end up doing less than if you scheduled less for yourself to do. And you'll find that balance, you know, what's a good amount of things to schedule myself to do without getting burned out and without doing those things at a low effort. Personally, to time block, I use Apple Calendar. You can really use any calendar app, Google Calendar, Notion. Any of those platforms will work. You could even use paper if you wanted to. But for me, it just keeps everything visual and organized and just keeps my day structured so I know when to do what. So to recap everything, the first thing and the most important thing that you have to do is get rid of distraction. It's the #1 thing stopping us from doing what we want to do and what we've told ourselves that we are going to do. Once you've done that, remember not to overschedule, focus on 1 to 3 main tasks for every day, and have a separate list for those other little things that have to get done. Lots of times when you do this, you'll find that you get that list done and you still have time in the day to do other things and to do those little things, and it's just, I'm telling you, it works so much better than having a giant list that you most likely won't get done. So again, keep it to 1 to 3 things. And finally, use time blocking to structure everything and to lower resistance even more. Productivity isn't about doing more, it's about doing what matters. Remembering to recover mentally and physically. And once you've got that down, all you have to do is stay consistent and you will see so much growth and so much progress. So stay consistent, keep things realistic, get off that phone and keep killing it. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to comment what you thought down below. And if you have any tips yourself, also drop those down there. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.